Alright, everyone, let's go over the rest of A Sound of Thunder by Ray Bradbury. We'll finish this section today. It's been a while since we worked on this, so let's go ahead and do a quick review. We met our main character. His name is Eccles. He's using the Time Safari Inc. to go on a hunting trip to the past. He's a little nervous about it, but he's paying $10,000, so of course he's going to go for it no matter what. They get into the time machine, him and four other people. Two others are just hunters, and there are two basically tour guides for this hunting trip. So they get into the time machine, they step out, they're back in the past, and they see this floating path. The tour guide says, "Stay on it, do not step off." Then they meet the T-Rex after talking about why they have to stay on the path, because if they step off, they could change the past. That's the whole idea of the butterfly effect that we talked about. The T-Rex shows up, and it describes it here with all these different descriptive words. Its legs were like piston, its skin was like pebbled armor, its teeth were like daggers, its eyes were like eggs, and it was towering 30 feet above half of the trees. Most of the trees it was taller than. This isn't just a normal T-Rex, it's bigger than we see in the movies. So Eccles, he gets scared, and he decides to run away at the protest of his companions. He runs away, and the last thing we heard was someone screaming, "Not that way." So we're going to pick up here underneath of question 7. I'll read the rest of this, and we'll talk about the questions as we've done for all 3 of these videos. I'll read it and then go back. The monster, after Eccles' movement, had lunged forward with a terrible scream. It covered 100 yards in just 6 seconds. The rifles jerked up and blazed fire. A windstorm from the beast's mouth engulfed them in a stench of slime and old blood. The monster roared, teeth glittering with the sun. The rifles cracked again. The sound was lost in the shrieks of the lizard's thunder. The great level of the reptile's tail swung up, lashed sideways. Trees exploded in clouds of leaf and branch. The monster twitched its hands down at the men to twist them in half, to crush them like berries, to cram them into its teeth and its screaming throat. Its eyes were leveled with the men. They fired, and the metallic eyelids of the blazing black iris. Like a stone idol, like a mountain avalanche, the Tyrannosaurus Rex fell. Thundering, it clutched trees, pulled them with it. It wrenched, and it tore the metal path. The men flung themselves back and away. The body hit 10 tons of cold flesh and stone. The guns fired. The monster lashed its armored tail, twitched its snake jaws, and lay still. A fount of blood spurted from its throat. The hunters stood, red and glistening. The thunder faded. The jungle was silent. Billings and Kramer sat on the pathway and threw up. Travis and Lesbrant stood with smoking rifles, cursing steadily. In the time machine on his face, Eccles lay shivering. He had found his way back to the path, climbed into the machine. Travis came walking, glanced at Eccles, took cotton gauze from a metal box, and returned to the others, who were sitting on the path. "Clean up." Another cracking sound overhead. A gigantic tree branch broke from its heavy mooring, fell, it crashed upon the dead beast with finality. "There," Lesbrant said, checking his watch. Right on time. That is the giant tree that was scheduled to fall and kill this animal originally. The rest of the men sank wearily into the machine's cushions. They gazed back at the ruined monster. A sound on the floor of the time machine stiffened them. Eccles sat there, shivering. "I'm sorry," he said at last. "Get up," cried Travis. Eccles got up. "Go out on the path, alone," said Travis. He pointed his rifle at Eccles. "You're not coming back in this machine. We're leaving you here." Lesperance seized Travis's arm. "Wait. Stay out of this." Travis shook his hand away. "The fool nearly killed us, and worse. Look at his shoes. He ran off the path. That ruins us. We'll forfeit thousands of dollars in insurance. We guaranteed that no one would leave the path. He left it. I'll have to report this to the government. They might revoke our license to time travel. Who knows what he's done to time, to history?" "Take it easy. All he did was kick up some dirt." "How do we know?" cried Travis. "We don't know anything. It's all a mystery. Get out of here, Eccles." Eccles fumbled with his shirt. "I'll pay anything. $100,000. Travis glared at Eccles and spat. Checkbook and spat. "Go out there. The monster is next to the path. Stick your hands up and elbow deep into his mouth. Then you can come back with us. The bullets can't be left behind. They don't belong here in the path. They might change anything. Here's my knife. Go dig them out." Eccles turned slowly to regard the primeval garbage dump that was the T-Rex, that hill of nightmares and terror. Like a sleepwalker, he shuffled out along the path. He returned, shuddering, his arms soaked and red up to the elbows, and held out his hands. Each held a number of steel bullets. Then he fell. He lay where he fell, not moving. Travis nudged the still body. "He'll live." He jerked his thumb at Lesperance. "Switch on, let's go home." They cleaned their hands and faces. They changed their caking shirts and pants. Eccles was up and around again, not speaking. Travis glared at him for a full 10 minutes on the way home. "Don't look at me," cried Eccles. "I haven't done anything, just ran off the path, that's all. A little mud on my shoes. What do you want me to do? Get down and pray?" "We might need it. I'm warning you, Eccles. I might kill you yet. I've got my gun ready." The time machine stopped. "Get out," said Travis. The room was as they had left it, but not the same as they had left it. "Okay, Eccles, go. Don't ever come back." Eccles couldn't move. "You heard me," said Travis. "What are you staring at?" Eccles stood smelling of the air. It was a subliminal feeling, but there was something different about everything. The colors, white, gray, blue, orange, in the wall, in the furniture, in the sky, beyond the window, and there was this feeling. And there was a man who was not quite the same man, seated behind the desk. That was not quite the same desk. But the most immediate thing was the sign painted on the office wall. The sign he had earlier read today on first entering somehow had changed. Time Safari Inc. Safaris to any year in the past. You name the animal, we take you there, you shoot it. Eccles felt himself fall into a chair. He fumbled in delirium, and the thick of slime on his boots. He held up a clod of dirt, trembling. "No, it can't be. Not a little thing like that. No!" Embedded in the mud from his boot, glistening green and gold and black, was a butterfly, very beautiful and very dead. "Not a little thing like that. Not a butterfly," cried Eccles. Eccles' mind whirled. It couldn't change things. Killing one butterfly couldn't be that important, could it? His face was cold. His mouth was trembling, asking, Who won the presidential election yesterday? The man behind the desk laughed. Are you joking? You know very well. Dutcher, of course. Who else? Not that fool weakling Keith. He'd lead our country straight into an economic depression. Whew. We got a man with guts now. The official stopped. What's wrong? Eccles moaned. He dropped to his knees. He scrambled at the golden butterfly with shaking fingers. We can't, he pleaded to the world, to himself, to the officials, to the machine. Can't we take it back? Can't we make it alive again? Can't we start over? Can't we? He did not move, eyes shut. He waited, shivering. He heard Travis breathe loud in the room. He heard Travis shift his rifle, click the safety catch, and raise the weapon. There was a sound of thunder. So that is the remainder of the story. Let's go back up to the first question. It says, what happens when the thunder fades? What does the sound of thunder represent? That's this section here asking about the T-Rex. So hopefully you would be able to answer this on your own, but if not, let me go ahead and talk to you about it here because we discussed this in class. We said that the thunder fading was the T-Rex dying. The T-Rex breathed its last breath, and the sound from all the shooting faded off into the distance. So the thunder represents the gunshots that took his life. And now that you've heard to the end of the story, you know why. You know how that gets used again when they get back to the future. We hear a sound of thunder from a gun a second time. So that's question 8. Question 9 asks us, what are some of the things that changed during once they came back to the future? What are the 3 of the things that had changed? You might have seen some of them highlighted up here from when we did this in class. We have in this paragraph here, let me see if I can get it here. In this paragraph, Eccles comes back and he's staring at something is just a little different and he can't quite tell what it is. The colors, the walls, the furniture, the sky, something is different. There's just this feeling. It's subliminal. And there's this man behind the desk who's not the same man who was there when they left. So that can be one of the first ones that you put down here. The man behind the desk is different. The desk itself is different, and the room is a different color, slightly different shade. Maybe something's a little to the left, something very simple like that. The most immediate thing, it says, was the sign painted on the office wall. Read the sign over here. Look at the letters. And then if we come back up top, here's what the sign looked like when they first left. Normal English writing. Come down here. It's the same words, just not in English anymore. So, oops, I changed all of English by stepping on a butterfly is what Eccles is feeling at that point. So he changed pretty much the entire language by accident. And the third thing here is highlighted as well. They changed the presidential election. And there's a lot of parallels to this election and the one that we just went through. When we hear the name Dutcher on here, you should think Trump. When you hear Keith, think Biden. Imagine if Eccles was a Biden supporter and just went back in time and came back to the future to learn that he had inadvertently caused Trump to win by killing a butterfly 60 million years ago. He'd be pretty upset, wouldn't he? So that's the biggest thing I think that causes the change. And possibly one of the biggest reasons why this last thing happens to him. Question 10 asks, what happens to Eccles? I'm going to read this a second time just in case you missed it. Eccles is having a nervous breakdown. He's on his knees, and it says he didn't move. He just shut his eyes and waited, shivering. He heard Travis, the man who was yelling and angry at him and who had earlier said, "I might kill you yet," breathing loud in the room, so huffing and puffing like the angry wolf. He heard Travis shift his rifle, so like pick it up. You think of the sound you get in a video game when you switch weapons, click, click, and then the safety comes off, chick, chick, and then the weapon comes up to his head, and then there is a sound of thunder, which we know from before is the sound of a gunshot. So Travis shoots Eccles because of all the changes that he made. We know this because Travis said he would, and because there's a sound of thunder, which we know means a gunshot. Okay. In class, we did not do questions 11, 12, and 13. So these are homework. If you want to get the answers, you'll have to come to class. You can turn this in once you've answered these three. We'll look at these questions real quick together so you can't say that there's any confusion. Question 11 says, what's the cause of this final event? I just kind of spoiled that a little bit for you. What causes all of this to happen? What leads up to Eccles being shot? What's the most immediate cause? Mood, we talked about briefly, is the way you are meant to feel about a story. So are you supposed to feel happy? Are you supposed to feel sad, scared, excited? And then compare it to how you felt at the beginning before they left and after when they got home. So I'm expecting certain answers here, but there are multiple things you can say that would be correct. And finally, fill in the cause and effect chart below as the sequence of events in the story. This is like 5th grade stuff, 4th grade stuff, maybe even younger than that. You should be able to look through the story and say, this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this. Okay, so starting with them signing up and going back to hunt the T-Rex and ending with that sound of thunder at the end, fill in all of these blanks, what happened in the story. And then this page is just blank. You can draw a little T-Rex on it or something if you want. It's not going to bother me any. Yeah, there's our little T-Rex. Give him his little arms. His tail. There we go. That's the most beautiful T-Rex you've ever seen, I know. All right. If you have any questions about this story, feel free to come talk to me at 2 o'clock. We will be doing more with it. We'll be looking into the figurative devices like similes and metaphors that are used and all that kind of fun stuff. So make sure you understood the story. If not, you're going to be in trouble. Adios.